Samara Bay. It's always good when you start the show laughing. I feel like we weren't even hitting record and we were cracking ourselves up. Do we care to tell the audience about our joke?
Sure, of
Or
course.
the hilarity of what we're about to discover?
Go for it. What are we about to discover?
We're going to discover why it's so money to be able to stand in your power and use your voice in a way where you can connect and get your message across and change and heal and help and all the things that we want to do, whether it's like in a meeting at work, in front of our families, on a TED stage, running for political office. You've helped so many people in so many realms of life. You were last on the show talking about your powerful book, Permission to Speak. And now you're back talking about a viral TED talk that you gave kind of about the same topic of like giving yourself permission to speak, but more so doing so in a way that like you can be human while you're doing it. Because we forget that we are humans when we are up on stage. And why is this funny? Because like it does have to do with money, right? It does at the end of the day.
I mean, it has to do with power, right? And
Right.
I was delighted because before hopping on, watched your 2000th episode celebration video, which ends with money has power and so do you. And I was like, that.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, tell us about this TED Talk. Okay, I'm gonna start there. This TEDx talk you gave. You have one piece of advice for everybody. It's sort of like the secret to how you can be on a stage, have presence, and not lose yourself in the process. And I've been there. Let me tell you, like if someone asks me to go speak, my first thought isn't yay. My first thought is, ugh. Believe it or not, and I've given like at this point hundreds, maybe 1,000 talks. I mean, this is my 2000th episode, so like I can talk. I know how to use words. It's all of the the messaging and the grounding and like I don't ever want to feel like I'm having an out of body experience, which I'm usually like I feel like I'm so scared on a stage.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, what you're describing, if we just bring that language we were using before in, is we're used to feeling somewhat powerful and not power over other people necessarily,
Yeah.
but power to, right? Our innate sense of agency, our delight in what we have accomplished or what we believe in and how much we like to, live our values out loud. And then we get on a stage and we're like, I do not feel powerful. I feel the
Yeah, what's
opposite.
going
I feel
on?
powerless, and I feel like all those eyeballs are sapping me of any value I might have had. What's going on? Well, I do want to just honor, first off, that what you just said. I just was reading a book written by a woman who's an expert, and she was talking to bonding with another woman who's an expert, and that the two of them met on a train when one of them said, "Ugh, I'm going to speak somewhere. I hate speaking." And the other said, "I hate speaking." And that's, of course, a totally normalized exchange.
Yeah.
And so I just want to start there because it's so top of mind to me. But isn't that an interesting phrase? I hate speaking. And by the way, you said talking. Now we're using the word speaking. So also like let's just be honest about there's some sort of like linguistic curlicue in the word speaking that feels higher stakes and scarier than talking, which we all know we do every day.
Right.
And also, like, there's an internet moment happening right now with yapping and the idea that, like, if it's even lower stakes, we can talk to a camera and get better at that. So there's, like, yapping, then there's talking, then there's speaking. But, inside of this concept of public speaking are these two words. Speaking, which does seem to have this sort of heightened, scary, historically scary, culturally scary vibe, and also public, which has a historically scary vibe for many of us who were, not told when we were young or our ancestors 100 years ago, oh yeah, the public's totally for you. If you step out and speak and even mess up, we will completely assume the best. Don't worry, the public is so super safe, right?
Yeah.
Many of us were not told that story as children, nor were our ancestors. So we are in this lineage of the public not being an arena that we could totally own. And here we are in 2026, reckoning with that history in our own life and in our family's lineage. Mm-hmm. So all of that lives inside of silently inside of this term public speaking. So when we say, I don't like speaking, right, what we mean is I don't like reckoning with this story I've been handed without the language or the freedom or the permission or the solidarity, the other peopleness to unpack it and go, how do I find a sense of power inside of this crappy ass story I was handed?
Right.
So that my body doesn't feel like it's lost itself in front of other people. Farnoosh, like what a gift to the world you speaking is, and the opposite of a gift. What a tragedy for us to imagine you or any of us having the chance to talk about ideas that are close to our heart in front of other people so those ideas might spread, and instead feeling out of body and shitty.
Yeah. You did this amazing thing at the beginning of your TED Talk where you actually personified what it's like to speak with fear versus what it's like to speak in your power and with love. Like what happens to our bodies? We recoil, the voice becomes monotone, the heart starts to beat.
I'll tell you,
take
Farnoosh,
me there, because
absolutely. One of the things that happens because I am a public speaking person, getting the chance to speak about public speaking, is that I did lean on my people, and I have this lovely community of, frankly, women speechwriters in all industry. We think of speechwriters as being people who wrote for Obama, and I do have one of those as one of my dear friends, but also people who write for academic university presidents, people who write in the corporate world, who do executive comms, and part of the job is like, oh, my CEO needs to speak, and I'm going to give them the words and the coaching on how to do it so that, they show up like a person. And so I have this community, and I really leaned in on that and did the talk a lot of times in the week or two beforehand and got feedback. And one of the bits of feedback I got was, do that thing where you actually show us the thing. And I was like, oh, duh.
Brilliant.
So, I think what you're referring to, I do talk about it, but then at some point I also just say, thank you for coming to my
for coming. Yeah.
I am still trying to decide whether I will attend.
Which
I want to love on vocal fry, because that is the linguistic term for that sound that sounds like bacon. And I am actually not at all judging people for using that. It has all kinds of social linguistic benefits. Other people hear it and go, oh, they sound like me. It's bonding. Like, really, it's so nuanced, and I really, really want to always bring nuance to this conversation. But when we live in our throat like this and we have no pitch range. Fun fact, pitch range, going up and down a little bit, not crazy, right? But sometimes I'm up here because I'm excited, and sometimes I'm down here because I'm like, oh, come closer, right? Having pitch range codes for vulnerability. When we are with people around whom we feel deeply safe, nothing to prove, they know us so well. Y'all, most of us have a whole lot of pitch range. And so, of course, the opposite is also true. When we are feeling unsafe, when we're either telling ourselves a story or we're picking up very true evidence that the room is not safe, that we're going to be misunderstood, that we're going to be undermined, we hide. And you either hide by literally not entering a room, right? Your body hides, or we hide vocally by not quite being knowable. So I'm here, and I'm even maybe with my words saying this matters. These third quarter earnings are going to be a real story that our company can tell, and I'm excited about them. But we might say it like, these third quarter earnings are like a story we can really tell. And then we're neither here nor there. And obviously what an incredible coping mechanism, but not if we want to move people.
Yeah, not if we want to connect. So, I obviously wrote a book about fear, and I feel like, fear for me has been a tool not to like sit with the fear always, but to question it. And whenever I'm afraid of a talk, just recently I was asked for 36 hours notice to address the graduating class of 2026 in our town. And what a great honor. But boy, was I terrified, because one, I'm like running up against a clock to write a great speech, and I also have to show up feeling like I got this. And so I remember feeling very afraid while I'm writing the piece, and I asked myself, what is at stake here? Like, why am I afraid? And I realized it was because I didn't want to I didn't want to let people down. Like I really wanted to show how much I cared. And I realized that I needed to make the piece as much as like a college graduate, not college, it was high school, a high school graduating ceremony is about giving advice like from me. I didn't want to make it about me. I wanted to make it about them. And I read the piece again. Kept reading with that lens and realized, yeah, here's how I can make these tweaks to always bring it back to them and make it less about like my advice, right? But like really be one with them. And I also wanted it to be fun. Fun, fun, fun. So like that was what I was afraid wasn't going to happen. And so that was my assignment, was to go back to the work and try to make it all of those things. And I'm very proud of the speech. People are like, you seem so relaxed. And I was like, well, I did a little bit of coaching before I got up on stage. I literally told myself, the voice in my head was like, breathe, relax, have fun. Because you got to do that too. Like, it's not all just going to, like, at the snap of your fingers, figure itself out. So I want to understand how to go from fear to connection based on what you have analyzed, your expertise, but maybe also like recognizing the fear in a way that kind of honors it too. Like, okay, here's what your fear is telling you how to connect.
I mean, I feel like everything that you just described are the lessons. And actually, I'm going to name two of them because I feel like they're such perfect examples of what I talk about in the talk, but also what ends up coming up ultimately in all my coaching. And as you referenced, I coach folks in so many different industries. A lot of them are like tech people who are, pitching their big idea, and a lot is on the line, but a lot of them are in the corporate world and their job is not really on the line, but they just have this like inner urge to up level their sense of leadership. And I think of it as like leadership out loud, right? Like some of the leadership is decisions that get made behind closed doors, and some of it is how do you tell the story of that? How do you talk to your people when you're going to have to lay some folks off? Like, how do we remain human and not just like, that's the baseline. I would like us to remain human, by the way. But also, how do we like really show up human so that we raise the level of like humanness that's happening in the room, which I think is what you were doing with that idea of connecting it back to your audience, right? It's like,
right.
Public speaking can accidentally sound like a thing each of us does individually on the inside. And some of it is an inside game, just like sports is also an inside game, right? There's an inner mindset stuff. But it's relational. Public speaking doesn't exist without the people. And that magical space between you and them where something is getting shared, that's the part that I feel like I'm on a kick these days to be like, that's what the thing is. That's what the thing is. We got to set up rooms. We got to set up ourselves. We got to set up speeches that we write so that we're really caring for that space between us. And so you did that in two ways, right? One, let me see if I can pull this up. But, one, you realized I don't want it to be about me. Not because you're not, by the way, brilliant and wonderful, and we do get to celebrate ourselves when we're the ones speaking, but we're celebrating ourselves because thank God they picked me. I am responsible for these folks. I'm gonna handle this with care.
Right.
And two, the other thing you did was deliberately inject a sense of play, which we're desperate for in every realm of our life now. We're calling it whimsy maxing. Right, like in so many ways. And I reference this in my work all the time. I wrote this book that you talked about, Permission to Speak, a few years ago now. I finished, if we're talking like, publishing, I finished on the actual manuscript, like hands off. Oh my God, 5 years ago now. And I didn't necessarily know what the parts were inside of it that were going to become like my rallying cry. And it's turned out to be two things. I'll get there in a second because I'm still finishing this thought and I'm trying to be thoughtful about how to frame this for you guys. But so that one of the things that I realized is laced throughout my book and that has become central to my daily work, and not just with my clients, but with me, is mischief. Which I think has a mischievous blend of two ideas. One is play, and the other is, frankly, rule breaking. What are the rules? What are the rules that I think are the rules for this space? And are they the rules? Do I need to follow those rules? And some rules we need to follow, but many, many, many are just norms built by a culture that did not have us in mind. And I mean this if we're women, if we're people of color, if we're queer folks, right? And we can bring in the political, but I also just mean this in terms of like, the day to day. We don't share a personal story about our kid in work. Maybe I'll try it. And I embody this in my talk with this line right near the end where I say, are you trying to keep up?
Yeah.
Or are you up to something? Because sometimes the word mischief can feel too dramatic in our day-to-day lives, too boat rocking, right? We are all tender, artsy rebels deep on the inside, but maybe the rebelliousness, like we're kind of exhausted by that bravery. So maybe we just collectively decide individually and then look to each other. We're up to something. And so you did both of those things stunningly, right? Make it about them and bring in a sense of play.
The levity. Yeah. You emphasize this importance of remembering that we are humans. So let's bring in the humanity. What does it mean to sound human? Because I think that and I have done this, we sort of feel like we have to sound authoritative when we're speaking. We have to sound like we're experts. We don't think we have to sound human. That's not the first instinct. It's like, I have to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I have to sound like I'm researched. I have to sound like I'm this, that, the other thing. But how do we do this and also remind the audience that we're human and not a robot? We're not detached.
I mean, because the thing that happens when we do that voice that we were talking about earlier,
the fry,
is that ironically we sound a little like a robot. And here we are in every aspect of our lives trying to take back the few things that the AI can't, do on our behalf. And speaking in front of other people, caring for that relationship between us is really something that humans, hopefully, only we can do. And certainly at the moment, we can do best. It is our competitive advantage over the robots. And then we sound like robots instead and miss the opportunity. And obviously some of that is just the innate biological fear of feeling seen and wanting to hide. And so, yes, the counter to that, okay, we feel that energy, we feel that impulse to hide, what do we do with it, is to remember that actually we're here to connect, not to protect. And that when we're connecting, we are actually actively solving the trust crisis exactly where we are. And, the trust crisis, of course, is like ruining our entire culture in every way. But so how, is that your question?
Yeah. How do we, because, going back to your book, Permission to Speak, you were noticing in your work prior to the book, and kind of, I think it was sort of part of the inspiration was like your clients were coming to you and they're like, I want to get rid of the fact that I speak too fast. I want to get rid of the fact that, I have an accent even, I want to sound a certain way, because in their mind, that is what the audience wants and expects and will appreciate. Whereas you're like, no, I mean, hey, if you have a sing-songy voice, if you speak fast or slow, like, let's work with that, because that's actually who you are. And so what's the right balance, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I have two thoughts. So one of them is, I lightly referenced earlier, thinking of our moments that we feel the most comfortable around our favorite people and the most safe. And maybe that version of us has a little more pitch variation. What else? What else does that version of us have? How do we talk? How do we tend to tell stories? How do we tend to tell oh my God, you will never guess who I just ran into? How do we tell that version of that story around people that we feel comfortable with and that we trust, see us, know us, believe us, love us? And it's not always a one-to-one. You can't just be like, come on, bring that version of you into this scary space. Come on, right? We don't want to shame ourselves. But we do want to dig in there. It's instructive. Who is that version of us? And where can we pull little bits of her, of him, that we recognize into these other rooms? What do we need to do? Well, maybe we need to actively imagine this audience that perhaps is, a cold audience or seemingly cold, or we can't read them. What if we just decide that we're going to play a little mischievous game where we look out at that audience and we cannot read them, and we begin to notice the story in our head of, oh God, they hate me. And instead we actively catch that story and we go, I'm up to something. And then we tell ourselves, oh my God, they're choking. They just don't look like it. Thank God I know CPR.
Yeah.
Right? Or some variation. I have an incredible British colleague named Viv Groskop who likes to say, oh, maybe they've just had some bad curry. Great. Right? Like we can catch ourselves telling ourselves the types of stories.
Is that the new, like, oh no, they're naked? Like,
it is the oh no, they're naked. And I believe it is literally the same impulse. It's not just like, if they're naked, I have more power than them. Ha ha.
Yeah,
ha,
no.
ha, ha. Although I suppose if that works, great. It's, I have a little inner secret that is getting me back into my body.
Yeah.
That is getting me back into relation with people who probably love me, can have the potential to love me, need what I have, don't even know that they need what I have, right? And this is what gives our body, an embodied sense of permission. And the other thing, if you want the quickest way to go from not sounding like a human, accidentally sounding like a robot, to the alternative, to you really showing up in your you-ness, the secret, besides what you already said, which is think about them and bring in play, is care out loud.
Yeah.
And this is something that I talked about in the TED Talk, because I really thought, if I've got one shot at 10 minutes, okay, TED Talks are supposed to be 18 minutes or less, but everybody says, make them 10. I was like, if I've got 10 minutes and I really, really want to like do my own sort of tender caring of an idea worth spreading, how do I tend to this idea? The one that I really think could change all of our lives in the world is acknowledging, not even injecting something new, but acknowledging what makes all of us love a speaker when we're in the audience. Every speech we have ever seen that makes us lean in and light up and come alive, I realized has exactly one thing in common. Maybe more than that. Maybe they're also breathing, But it's connected. And the one thing is that the person who is speaking doesn't just care about what they're talking about, but they're willing to show us that they care. Not performatively, not over care, not push, but reveal. And so what that ends up doing on a mechanical level, if we're just talking about the body, is that the words that they're saying, the body language that we're reading, and the tone of the voice that we're hearing are all telling the same story. And the story is, this is the thing that matters to me. And your care can be anger, it can be enthusiasm, it can be grief, it can be massive, it can be tiny. But care is care. This matters. This matters. And I'm not saying this matters, but showing that it doesn't, which is what we do when we're hiding, which confuses the story, because you know what audiences will believe more than the words? The body language and the tone, right? This old 70s study called Morabian, which has been often misused, but the idea that we've all heard some version of, that when we're in the audience and picking up on the information of somebody who's speaking, we're picking up something like 60 to 70% body language, 30%, 20 to 30% tone of voice, and that leaves less than 10% for the words. And the misunderstanding of that, the misapplication is, oh crap, my words don't matter. The real application is, what if all of those things are in alignment? Well, now you're really telling the story. When we say welcome at the top of a gathering. Welcome, I'm so glad you're here. We all know, we can think back instantly to the time when you saw somebody go, welcome, I'm so glad everybody's here. I hope that you got some coffee in the lobby. And there's just something about the words and the vibe that doesn't match, and you don't feel welcomed.
Right.
And we can control that. It takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of noticing what we're like when we're at our most comfortable, but caring out loud, caring and then being willing to show that we care, solves that problem instantly, makes people lean in and light up, and makes us unforgettable. And when we don't do that, we aren't. And that's an absolute injustice to our ideas.
You're so right. I mean, I feel like what I'm learning too is just try to be more in the moment and present with your audience, which I feel so often in the beginning of my speech giving career, I I couldn't get there. It was really hard because I'm so focused on what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it. Will I remember what to say? What if people aren't liking what I'm saying? And then also I'm supposed to like make eye contact and pick up on the audience and maybe leave room for spontaneity. It's too much, Samara. It's too much, you know? And so what are some things that I can maybe let go of that are holding me back, like this, the fears of forgetting, the fears of this, the fears of that, the people in the audience, so that I can use more of my brain and my facial expression and my body language to be with the audience, because I feel like that's a whole responsibility. It's important, but it's so often never done because 99% of the speech is like, you know, getting the speech out.
Get it right.
Land it. Land the plane.
I'll tell you, it's practice. And I don't just mean practice like more opportunities to speak. I mean, being intentional about what we do beforehand. Like, first of all, a 2-minute warm up, like where you actually move your body.
Right.
Like, it's so obvious that it almost doesn't need to be said. And yet so many of us bypass that and sabotage our chance to go from like a cold body and a mean to ourselves brain into something that feels a little bit nicer. And I have all kinds of suggestions for warm-ups, but the best thing to do is just to do what actually works for you. You know, if you're a yoga person, do a little yoga, put on some music, get down in your hips, remember what you're like when you're on a dance floor, invite the version of yourself that knows how to be silly into the space, right? But the other thing is, when I say practice, here's what I really mean, and I'm getting clearer about this, I think, because I'm trying to, you know, as a coach, I'm always getting sort of more and more like, okay, but what actually works? When we practice, I think we maybe many of us have been socialized to believe that practice, maybe from our school days, means just do it over again. Do the words. And then we either are the type of person who calls ourselves disciplined and does that a billion times, or the type of person who kind of handicaps ourselves by being like, no, that'll make it too stale. I'll just wing it, right? And so then we have a relationship to whether or not we're going to do that really, really boring thing of doing it over and over and over and over and over. May I suggest a third way, which is that if we're practicing, maybe say the words. This is obviously super based on the context of what you're actually, you know, prepping for, everybody who's listening to this. But get in your body. Like, literally stand in a room that hopefully no one else is in, so that you can totally use your imagination and imagine the people out there, and ask in advance if you don't know the room. Does the room have windows? How is it going to be? Mostly like far back, or is it wide? And if you can't get answers, you know, fine, but at least ask. And then you can start to visualize and remember that all of us have the same imaginations that our kids have, that little kids had, that we had when we were little, and really lean into trusting that. We can stand, we can notice, okay, I breathe here. I always forget this bit. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if there's like a logic problem there. Maybe I can inject, maybe I can help myself. The same way I want to fiercely care for my audience, I also must fiercely care for me. This is where the self-care part of public speaking comes in, so we can actually be that vessel who does the thing when the moment calls. Okay, well, what would that feel like? How's my body feeling now? Am I breathing? Am I imagining eye contact with a few people? Am I imagining seeing a person who looks grumpy because maybe they just had bad curry, and thinking to myself, can I practice thinking to myself, oh, they love me. Oh my God, I hope that curry thing goes away because they so want to be here. Practice these thoughts, right? While also practicing perhaps your material. And that's what practice actually is. So we're not in a way practicing detaching from our body. We're practicing attaching to our body. I'm having an experience and I'm doing it. And when I do it with the real folks there, it will be different. There will be new, you know, sensory, whatever things I'm picking up. Someone's coughing. Oh no, are they bored? Wait, no, I know how to do this, right? And then there'll be some bang that happens in the back of the room that's unexpected, and you get to say, "Is everybody okay back there?" You know, like there's stuff that's going to happen that you can't exactly plan for. But the spirit of, here's some stuff I've prepared to say to you today, and here's the you, and here's me bridging that gap in between the me and the you with the stuff that we can actually practice.
Yeah. And so much of what we've learned today is about giving a talk, speaking in front of an audience, on a stage, but talk about the importance of this in real life, day to day. We often talk on the show about having really big conversations with our teams at work, with our loved ones at home, about money, about work, about life changes. And so, share how this can also help you land the plane, win, and connect more outside of, a forum more intimately.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think this is, in a way, the same thing. And it feels different when they were scaled up. But it is the same thing. As I think public speaking really is just talking to somebody who doesn't already know what we're going to say, maybe doesn't already know everything about us. So there's a little element of, do I have to prove myself? But maybe they do know everything about it. Maybe it's our spouse. But the things that I think are essential is that the stakes feel high. And communicating when the stakes feel high is when we start to get into this world that feels less like talking and more like speaking, right? There is just something that feels like, oh God, my body is acknowledging that this moment is a lot.
Yes.
That's making it really hard to care for this relationship between us. It's making me kind of backtrack into the me of it all. So here we are going, what can we do to take care of the us of it all? And obviously, depending on what the conversation is, right? It's so different if it's like, I'm putting a boundary down and I'm leaving, versus it's, I'm hoping that the two of us can come up with a new plan together. Let's negotiate a new plan together, right? But in all the cases, taking care of the space between us is really, really the thing. And sometimes that's as literal as saying, what do I care about? What do you care about? Where's the Venn diagram overlap? Can we talk about our shared care? Can we talk about the thing that only I seem to care about and the thing that only you seem to care about? And frankly, now that I say this, it makes me think of parenting. What I've started to say a lot to my 11-year-old who's starting middle school this week.
Oh boy.
Is there something I don't understand about this situation?
That's a great line. It's a great question.
And it's a real one. And I have to work on not saying, is there something I don't understand? Right? Which is suggests like,
what
come
am I
on.
missing? What am I
like,
missing?
I'm not missing anything, but now I need you to prove to me that I'm not missing anything and validate me. No, like we have to actually say,
genuinely,
with as much honesty as possible. Yeah. Or as much humility as possible. Is there something that I don't understand about this situation? And then we have to be quiet. And my other favorite line, which is I'm thinking about in this context, even though it's really more of sort of a consultant line, but it's so valuable, is what's your concern? And then instead of responding to their concern with defensiveness, saying, what else?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, these are scripts, but they're also ways of actively caring for that space between us.
Mm. Have you learned anything new about your skills or your trip ups, even as I'm sure we all have them still, even, the pros, there are moments where we're like, we second guess or we doubt. I'm just curious for this particular TEDx, because I know so much preparation went into it. What were some things you learned about yourself, or even just the art of speaking for the first time?
So this is such a kind question, Farnoosh. I don't know if anyone's actually quite asked me this, and suddenly I'm like overwhelmed with how much I learned. But I'm gonna offer one thing. Memorizing is so weird, right? It's so weird, and actually, I have a bit in my book about I hope you never have to, because really, it's not natural, and it doesn't, especially in middle age, like whomever. But I will say that when we approach something that is a unique public speaking opportunity, where there's very clear guidelines and guardrails, we can either be resentful towards it or we can gamify it. And so I really actively gamified this. How do I make it as close to 10 minutes as possible and still honor the thing? How do I memorize so that it feels so embodied that I can actually, of course, do the thing I'm talking about, which is, of course, the comical modeling I set myself up for,
yes,
and now I have to pay off. And seriously, it was doing it out loud so many times, sometimes in front of other people, like my USC students, which was hilarious and so humbling. I did it for them a week before, literally a Thursday before the Thursday, and it was my test to see if I was off book, as they say in the theater world. And dear readers, I was not. I left the papers over there, so I was technically, but the amount of like, what comes next? I see you all. You are judging me in the way only 20-year-olds can. Right? Like all my own lessons coming back to me, and
Yeah. Oh my
but
gosh.
I did that obviously on purpose, as painful as it was. What a gift! What a gift for me to get to, use them in this way. What a gift for them, I think. Partly because one of the things that I care a lot about for all of us is that if we are going to practice anything in front of other people, that we do better than just say, give me feedback. We actually kind of tell them the kind of feedback we want them to give us. And in this case, I actually cast them. I was like, who would like to be a tech startup guru in your 30s? Okay, who would like to be an international leader of a beleaguered country? Who's in your 60s? Great. Who would like to be a college student? Big leap.
Who would like to be my mother?
Who would like to be my mother? And literally each of them at the end said, as a tech guru, here's what I think about your time. And I'm like, thank you for gamifying it, right? For taking
that's
the game
brilliant. Because then it also takes the
seriously.
pressure off them if they do want to offer a note, and they can say, it's not me, it's the tech guru in me.
Exactly. But
I'm
also
role-playing.
just to close the loop, like, you said, what did I learn? Memorizing, you have to be so kind to yourself, like instantly forgive, and also do it a billion times. Like I had a lovely weekend scheduled with my best friends from growing up right the week before, and I was like, oh, that's terrible timing. And I really tried to just embrace it and be like, y'all, we're gonna hang, I'm gonna not drink and take care of the temple that is my body that is about to do this crazy thing. But also, I am going to get up early and walk on the beach alone and do my TED Talk all the way until I finish it. And then I'm going to turn around and do it all the way back. And I did my TED Talk so many times on that beach alone while walking. Oh. And that is how it ended up in me. And did I imagine people during that, right? Did I do all the things that I said to do? Absolutely. I mean, we just have to give ourselves a little spaciousness to do that. And that is the embodiment work, that is the sort of social contract that I think we want to be doing, so that when we get up and share ideas that are close to our heart, we really do them justice. But our world is not set up for that,
No, thank you for that.
Let's be kind to ourselves about that.
Yeah. Well,
I was going to Farnoosh. Yeah. One other thing, because this is quick and tiny. I tried to do this completely AI free. There was one sentence that I thought was so clever that my AI and I had like figured out together, and I scooched it into the middle. It was the one line I messed up on the day.
Wait, you messed up a line on the day? I didn't even notice.
It got edited out.
Oh, okay. Take that
as a PS asterisk. Thus, it was not necessary. Isn't that interesting? So I totally don't want to get in the way of anybody else's process. Use AI as you want to empower you. But if you are using it because you are outsourcing your own genius to a machine, I dare you to intercept, because I cannot believe that was the line that I messed up.
Oh,
in a way.
my
I totally
gosh.
can, right? Because here I was trying to talk about how to sound human. Turns out the ideas need to come from inside of us too.
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. Samara Bay, thank you so much for all of this. Mostly, though, your kindness to us and to yourself, and just this reminder of, we all have the genius inside. It's just relax. I feel like I just gotta breathe, Be good to yourself.
It's true. And
gamify it if you have to.
Gamify it. Speaking of, I made my first ever quiz. So if y'all want to go to my website,
yes, we will.
You can watch the TED Talk, but also apply it instantly to you. What is my pattern? What is my little habit when it comes to public speaking?
My gosh. Mine is heart palpitations. And we'll end on that. Thank you so much.
But my heartbeat sees your heartbeat.
Oh, Samara Bay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.